Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, maybe even good evening. My name is Latashia Redhouse. I am the American Indian Foods Program Director, and we're really excited to kick off the second day of amazing speakers and panelists, and we're so happy that you could join us virtually from afar or within your home. So we do have a really good lineup for you all today, and before I get moving along, I want to go ahead and pass it over to my colleague who's helping me with this breakout session. So Mike, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and our panelists?
Sure. Thank you so much, Latashia. My name is Michael Schellenberger, and I'm the USDA Technical Assistance Specialist for IAC for Washington Tribes and Tribal Members. And today, our first session is going to be on teaching wellness through food and health. During this session, presenters will share the importance of teaching wellness and sustainability by exploring the relationship with food, sustainable production practices, and healthy eating. A big thank you to all our sponsors for the IAC conference. And just a second here, I lost something. There we go. Sorry, everybody. I lost my script for a second. And a big thank you to all our sponsors of the IAC conference. This session is sponsored by our champions of native agriculture sponsors. Melinda Williamson will be first up, and she's a member of the Prairie Band of Potawatomi Nation and the founder of Morning Light Kombucha, the only Native American and woman-owned kombucha brewery in the U.S., located in Hoyt, Kansas. Melinda is an American Indian food producer and utilizes close partnerships with local organic farmers to source her ingredients, as well as hand picks wild fruits, vegetables, and herbs to brew her kombucha tea. These relationships and methods of seasonal harvesting allow for a variety of fun and fresh flavors offered regularly on her menu. And then next up, we're going to have Spring Alaska Schreiner. She's the owner and principal ecologist and indigenous, I always have a problem with that word, I apologize, agriculturalist of Sakari Farms, Sakari Botanicals. Born and raised in Valdez, Alaska, Spring is a daughter of Chief Helmer J. Olson of the Valdez Native Tribe. Spring was the recent recipient of the 2019 NASDA Woman Farm to Food Award, honoring her achievements regionally in value-added food production and small farm education. Next up after Spring, is going to be Jerry Jondreau. And I hopefully I got this right. He can always correct me later. And some of these names that we have here and tribal affiliations, I'm sure I'm probably not going to get correct. He hails from the Wikwedong. Like I said, some of these things are definitely new to me. As a member of the Laonsi Bay Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwe, that one I know I got right, of the Keenawina Bay Indian Community, KBIC, where he currently resides with his family. He is the owner of Dynamite Hills Farms, a space where they are getting back to the land to revitalize a traditional clean food culture, a reciprocal and healthy relationship with the land, and to rebuild a grateful community centered around Anishinabe foods. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mike.
And Jerry, I'm going to ask Jerry that you, when you get on there, that you give the correct pronunciations. Thank you.
Right. I know some of those are tricky, and thank you so much, Mike. Go ahead and we'll get started with Melinda. If you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen, and we'll have you present.
All righty. Here. Okay, just give it a second. All right, there we go. Can everyone see that? Okay. Can you guys see this part too? You moving everybody's screen around? Okay. Anyhow, Bojo, Melinda Deshnikas, Mishkotini, Bodwa, Wadmi, Mina, Sakam Fox, She, Oklahoma, Andao. Mishkotini, Bodwa, Wadmi, Shkwangan. My name is Melinda Williamson. I'm Prairie Band Potawatomi and Sakam Fox of Oklahoma, and I live on the Prairie Band Potawatomi Reservation here in Mayetta, Kansas. And I am the founder of Morning Light Kombucha. So we are a small batch, locally brewed kombucha company. We're family owned, and our brewery is actually in Hoyt, Kansas, which is not far from our reservation. And we started in 2016. So like I said, this is a family business. We have our booch crew here. You can see it's made up of my sister, who I just recently hired as our brewery manager, and then all of our kids. So the kids all have a part in kind of keeping everything running smoothly behind the scenes, making sure all the bottles are washed and inventories taken, and just cleaning and doing all those fun things that they get paid for, so they don't complain too much sometimes. So anyhow, so we were established in 2016, and so for those of you who are not familiar with what kombucha is a fermented tea. Essentially, it's made out of tea, sugar, water, and the kombucha culture, and it ferments from anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. And during that time, most of the sugar is actually consumed, so it's actually a low sugar beverage, and it's fizzy. CO2 is produced, probiotics are produced, and what different healthy organic acids, and then some of like the antioxidants that are in the teas themselves, the vitamins, the polyphenols, they all become even more bioavailable for your body. And so it's just kind of like a really great alternative to soda. It's healthy. And I don't really have all the benefits. I can go through a little bit. You know, we know that probiotics are really good for the gut. It's good for rebalancing and repopulating the gut with good bacteria. So it's great for digestion. The organic acids have been shown to help with inflammation, which is one of the reasons that I kind of got into kombucha. And I actually have more information about the health benefits of kombucha, and you can go to my booth at the trade show, and I've got a few different flyers that you can read a little bit more about the health benefits. But I kind of want to get into how I learned about kombucha and how I got into kombucha. And so I kind of have to go back and tell you a little bit about my story. So it all kind of started in 2010. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune illness. It's called undifferentiated connective tissue disease, and what the doctors and rheumatologists think is it's pre-lupus. And so I'd heard of lupus, of course, but I'd never heard of I didn't really understand what an autoimmune illness was at all. And shortly after my diagnosis, I actually lost a friend to lupus, and a year before, she had lost her sister to lupus. So to say the least, like, I was terrified, and I had pretty much gone from being like a healthy, active young woman to someone who could barely get around unassisted, losing my hair, and just a ton of other issues. So I was scared, and I did a lot of praying, and I felt like I was going to be okay. I grew up learning about our food, our traditional foods, our medicines, and knowing that you can lean on those to help with healing. And I kind of decided, that's what I just felt like that's what I needed to do in order to find healing with this autoimmune illness. And so basically, I started introducing, I mean, I ate pretty well before, but I really started making a conscious effort to, you know, make sure that I was gathering medicines, growing foods, fruits and vegetables that I knew where they were coming from. That's when things really started to become a lot more important to me about knowing, you know, where our food came from. And so I started introducing more whole foods into my diet, being really conscious about where my meat was coming from and finding producers that had really good practices. And after a while, after a short amount of time, we really, my daughter and I both started seeing so much healing in our bodies. So I knew that I was on the right path. Another part of that journey was really learning about where my autoimmune illness, like what was the mechanisms, like how is it affecting my body? Because in order to heal, you really have to get in tuned with your body. You have to listen to your body, figure out what things are your triggers, what's good for you, and how your body's reacting to the things that you're eating. And so one of the things I really read a lot about was fermented foods. And so luckily my daughter and I both absolutely love fermented foods. So it wasn't hard to you know, have a lot of those in our diet. But you know, the more I learned about the importance of the gut microbiome and how that is the source of so many things, good and bad, that happen in our body. And so, you know, I'm no expert, but basically what I do kind of know in layman's terms is, you know, your gut, when it's functioning properly, it kind of forms like a tight barrier. And that just makes sense that your gut would form a tight barrier. But when you're eating unhealthy foods and you're, it can really start to make that gut barrier more permeable. And what happens is it actually allows food particles, toxins, microbes to pass that barrier into the bloodstream. And then it's now a foreign object in your body, and your body starts to attack itself. And so really being conscious about what you're eating, and really healing the gut is the key to help with healing some of, you know, from some of those things. Not that it's going to get rid of anything that you may have, but it definitely is helpful to be conscious about your food. So fast forward, I guess before I fast forward, you know, during that time, I really started, after losing my friend, I really started to question whether I was living the life that I really wanted to be living, living a life with purpose. And, you know, am I doing everything to make a difference, like for my daughter and I? And I didn't feel like satisfied where I was in life. And I was working in academia doing research as a grassland ecologist, and I loved it, but I wanted to do something else and make a difference in other people's lives. And I had always wanted to own my own business. And so, and I decided to basically start a kombucha company. So that's kind of, I mean, there was a lot of things that went into it, and I really wasn't sure at the time what exactly I wanted to do, but I did know that I wanted to use the knowledge that I had gained during, you know, after my autoimmune diagnosis, to help other people who I knew were suffering from the same issues that I was suffering from. And so in 2016, Morning Light Kombucha was born. This is one of my first bottles. I had no writing on it. I was just selling them with a sticker slapped on there. So, but it was pretty exciting to be able to start the business. And basically, I wanted my business to have a voice and have a purpose and get conversations started. And it all had to do with, you know, where our food it started with where our food comes from. So one of the things that was really important about my business is that we worked with local farmers to source our ingredients. And so we're not necessarily working just with organic farmers, but we're working with farmers who are really focused on regenerative agriculture and sustainable agricultural practices. The things that our farmers are doing are just so, I love it. And I love those partnerships, because then we can start to talk about with our customers, you know, the importance of knowing what you're putting into your body, and really just getting behind to support those who are growing for us. So that was one of the foundations of my business. Another one was, you know, my family, we go out and forage for and harvest our wild fruits, vegetables, foods, herbs on our reservation, as well as grow our own traditional foods in our gardens. And so that has been something that I've actually been able to, I guess, seamlessly kind of add to our kombucha line. So we go out, and I have pictures of the kids collecting choke cherries. My nephew's kind of banging on the branches to knock them out. We get elderberries, mulberries, apples, peaches, just anything that we can find on a reservation. And, you know, we don't go out, and our goal isn't to make thousands of gallons with these. We're a small batch kombucha company. Our largest batch is 55 gallons. But if we only collect a quart of gooseberries, then we'll make 5 gallons, and it'll just be a small seasonal brew that's a limited edition. And so it's just fun because we get to talk about the things that you can go out and harvest on your own, you know, in your community. And it gives me and the kids and my family an opportunity to get out there together and continue doing the things that we do, and the important lessons that come along with going out and harvesting. So it's just a lot of fun to be able to continue to do that as part of the business. So another part that was important to me with my business was sustainability. So we have been focused, we try to focus on every aspect of the business to, you know, be sustainable in some way. So we only offer our kombucha in refillable bottles. At this point, we had not done any prepackaged bottling. I know on a lot of reservations, and including mine, we don't do glass bottle recycling, and kombucha kind of needs to be, it can't be in plastic. So I just didn't want to contribute to waste in our communities by offering glass bottles that were prepackaged. So we sold our product by the keg wholesale for dispensing on tap. We did our refills. We do compostable everything. Our gloves that we use to serve and work in the kitchen, they're all compostable. Our cups and our trash bags. And so it's just really nice. And then we compost nearly 100% of our waste or recycle it. So we're really proud of that. And we're actually working on ways to now start recycling our wastewater that we have that's generated from our filtration of our water that's used in our kombucha. So we're actually hoping to connect with some students in Canada to help. I'm gonna be doing a talk up there. And so anyways, I'm just excited to start looking at some other ways to even make the business even more sustainable. So, and the last important thing about the business was giving back. So we give a percentage of all of our sales back to Native communities and Indigenous communities, even outside of the US. And so we're really excited and proud that from the beginning we've been able to do that. So anyhow, and then of course, Lottie mentioned we're American Indian food producer. We've been in the business, or we've been part of it for a couple of years now, and it's given us really incredible opportunities to go out there and meet other producers and other tribal communities and businesses that might be interested in having our kombucha in their at their places. So really quickly, the next phase, we're actually launching a canned kombucha line, and this canned kombucha line is actually going to allow us to expand distribution outside of Kansas and hopefully connect with more, get our product into tribal communities, tribally owned businesses. And one of the big things that we're interested in doing is collaborating with other Native farmers and other Native owned businesses on kombucha related products. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about that, but I know that I probably need to get off of here. But anyhow, if you want to get in touch with me, you can contact me here or visit me in my booth afterwards. Okay, miigwech.
Great, thank you so much, Melinda. I always learn something new about our producers when they do presentations. And again, all of our producers have amazing stories, and thank you so much for sharing the benefits of kombucha and providing that insight to how your Morning Light Kombucha was founded and new and exciting just business developments on your end. We're going to go ahead and get started on Spring Alaska's presentation. I just need to share my screen, Spring. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry, it's taken forever to connect. And in the meantime, Spring, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, I can go ahead and.
Yeah, you bet. A Panglan Ulavulik Una Katakaya. Welcome to this gathering today. My name is Spring Alaska. My Inupiaq name is Upingstrak. It means time when the ice breaks. I'm from the Kingakamute clan up Little Diomede Island in Nome, Alaska. Valdez Native tribe, born and raised in Valdez, Alaska, and enrolled Chugach, Alaska Native Corporation member. I wanted to thank you guys for having me today. I'm really honored to be surrounded by Melinda and Jerry because they're my peers and mentors. We'll keep things kind of quick today. I'm just going to roll through some slides and talk to you about Sakari Farms and Sakari Botanicals, some of the ways that we use traditional foods to increase wellness in our culture. And then I'm kind of excited to hear what Jerry's got to say, so I'll keep it short for everybody. But thank you, Lottie. I am the owner of Sakari Farms. Sakari means sweet in Inuit or Inupiaq. And we purchased the farm 2 years ago. We've got about 6 acres here in Bend, Oregon, here in the high desert. We're almost an hour south of the Confederate Tribes of Warm Springs and about an hour north or 2 hours of the Klamath Falls tribe. I started Sakari Botanicals in 2009, and that was when I started growing sweetgrass and other traditional native plants and started doing health and wellness with those traditional products and teas. And then we purchased land, and here we go. It's been really a wild ride and very busy ever since. Sakari Farms is a traditional food farm. So we have a tribal seed bank that we grow seed from all around the country and assist other tribes in increasing the production of that seed and then returning it to them. We provide technical assistance and on-farm tribal cooking classes and on-farm farm work for beginning tribal farmers. And then we just grow we have about 140 almost varieties of traditional foods that we grow from around the country again, that we grew from seed. We use part of the plant for our value-added products, some of the medicine that we grow on foods, and then we take the rest of the seed and then store it and redistribute it. Can you go back a few slides? One more. Yeah, so let's go back one more to Sakari Farms. Yeah, just this is up on the screen. This is kind of an overhead of our small farm. We're constantly expanding it, getting loans, tribal loans for greenhouses and hoop houses. We have a pretty bad fluctuation of weather here, so it's best to grow things in the greenhouse. Let me go to the next slide. This is some of my traditional foods from my culture. This is a little girl wearing one of our traditional parkas made out of different furs and hides, caribou, reindeer, seal. And then there's a picture in the middle of a Labrador tea with probably a low bush currant or cranberry on there. And then we have muktuk and a gudak. Muktuk is our bowhead whale, which is one of our main sources for fat, some of our healthier fats. And then a gudak is our traditional Eskimo ice cream. I know the word Eskimo is inappropriate, but that's what we use. You take snow, fermented seal oil, and berries and mix it together, and that's kind of a sweet treat for us. Before I go to the next slide, I just wanted to kind of run through some of the goals of food and wellness and how they are important to, I think, people around Turtle Island and just tribal communities in general, things that as we talk about, like Melinda and Jerry will, the foods that we're producing and distributing all kind of go back to some of these simple concepts I'll read to you. Reconnecting with the land, engaging in our traditional languages, which we're trying to get back. There's a lot of, I know in my language, there's multiple dialects that have evolved, at least over the last 20, 30 years, where our elders would have one way of saying things, and now the youth have a different way of translating those traditional terms. Part of having our healthy foods introduced is to break that cycle of some of the inflicted environmental and social diseases that we've inherited from non-natives during times of when they were taking over our land, abuse, trauma, boarding schools, food diseases. Another good intent is to get outside. Be aware of your environmental surroundings, always watching those weather patterns. There's a lot of climate change that I'm noticing here where I live. It was 60 degrees yesterday and it should have been snowing. So we were outside farming versus shoveling snow. And I think we're in for a world of hurt coming up here because we don't have water for next season. So getting outside, engaging with your traditional foods, and always watching the weather like we did in the old days when we were hunting and gathering, so that you're always aware of those weather patterns. Also increasing youth engagement and talking to our elders. There's a significant disconnect between the ability to get elders to talk to us about things from the old days. Sometimes they'll let it out, sometimes they won't. It's very valuable information, and getting our youth engaged outside with our elders too, and sometimes gathering some of these traditional foods. And then just having access to healthy foods. When are we going to be weaned off of those commodity foods? I know that some of us tribal cooks or food producers tend to be tribal food purists, where like when I create my tribal traditional recipes for regional tribes around here for our cooking classes, I really try and just stick to the basics, the roots, the berries, and some of the plant material and the meats and fishes. But then I also like to put dairy in things too, so that's part of my own consequence. Let me go to the next slide. This is just something I put together a few years ago. But recently I was teaching a group of high schoolers, and it's called Strive. But I was asking them, what are your traditional foods? And a lot of the traditional foods that we have in Alaska, I noticed when I moved down here to the lower 48 are common here. A lot of the pines, the cedars, the berries the woods rose. We have a little bit of Labrador tea down here in lower 48. I think it's up by where Jerry lives more commonly. Aster, balsam root, Armiposa lily, fireweed, Indian paintbrush. A lot of these plant materials, the seed is very important. The plant dye that you can use from the plant, also the medicine, and then the food component. So using that whole plant, I call it whole plant theory here on the farm, is a lot of non-native farmers traditionally will grow echinacea just for the root, but there's also plant dye associated with it. It's medicine. You can use the flower petals, and the seed. So I kind of know better than to just start cranking out volumes of different varieties, monocropping almost, even though it's organic and healthy, because there's so much you can use with that plant. So you can go to the next one. This is probably, if you ask a lot of Alaska natives, this is probably our top one thing that we enjoy is blueberries. It's high in vitamin C. We made it recently, just made a tea with it. We grow the bachelor buttons, not the jasmine. I was trying to have some fun with the tea for once and use something we don't grow here. But blueberries are high in vitamin C, antioxidant. Usually when you're out gathering berries in these marsh, bog, wetland, riparian areas, there's a lot of other food that you're gathering at the same time. If you look to the left of your screen, there's Labrador tea. I had an elder tell me when I was in college up in Fairbanks that similar to like down in the South America region where the women they would stuff the coca leaves in their bottom of their lip. We would do that up in our northern lands because you're always carrying your children in your kuspak. This is our traditional women's wear. So you would carry your child in the back in the hood. This is a more modern one, so very inefficient. But your back would get tired. You're gathering twigs, berries, roots. You're always bent over. And so the women used to take the Labrador tea, the furry side in underneath their bottom lip, or sometimes up in here. I've done it up in here before in college, and it just kind of starts to numb you a little bit. It has many different health values to it and also medicinal as well. Can drink it in tea. It's very common up in the North Midwestern area where Jerry's from. But this is kind of one of our all-around plant materials that we use is lots of berries, high bush currants, low bush currants, high and low bush cranberries, raspberries, watermelon berries, salmon berries, raspberry. I mean, I can't think of one berry that isn't going to be healthy for you in some fashion. You obviously have to be careful of some of the ones that are poisonous. Elderberries is another one. We have a healing tea that's really popular. That it's just really good for you. It just keeps you kind of healthy on the inside all the time. Just try not to overdo it. So this is one of the teas that our farm produces, the plant material. We package the tea for value-added products. And then I would say a good 90% of our clientele is the tribal community on Turtle Island. So we're growing the plant materials here and shipping it out, especially with COVID right now. We're able to provide a lot of our teas and food products in the elder tribal food boxes. So we're super humbled to be able to do that this year and redistribute some of this healthy food and plant material back to our traditional people. Something else, when I started the business and making teas, it's kind of a trickster move, but I started naming some of my teas in my traditional language. This is Saktak tea, and it means chest in Inuit. It's a very strong medicinal tea. Pine needles, bee balm, lavender. It's an astringent, antibacterial, antifungal. I kind of call it now the COVID tea because it just can clean you out. It's not your everyday tea. A lot of traditional Native people know you don't take medicine every day. You don't drink the same tea every day or eat similar foods. You kind of have to mix it up. Every plant has its function for food and medicine. So the intent of having our clear packaging and also using our traditional languages, which I've done for other tribes too and other dialects, is so that you can see the plant material. You can make those plant associations. When you're out hiking and you see a rose hip, you can go, oh, I used to pick those with my grandma on the river. And then you start to talk to your elder about it. And then they start to remind you of what they used to call it. So that's kind of why I started naming our teas with our traditional language, so that people have to go look it up and find out what it means or talk to other people, and encourages that dialogue. So I thought that was a creative way to do some marketing. It seems to be working. I think what's inside is more important though, those healthy, organically raised plants that we grow here on the farm. This has been really fun this last few years. My husband, Sam, has been taking the traditional and some of our Southwestern native peppers that we grow for seed and that we send back. We've been growing some of these specialty peppers that they're so flavorful and really high nutritional value because it's an old traditional ancestral seed. and making hot sauces. So we have about 6 different varieties of hot sauces right now. They range from being very tasty and comfortable to the more male component of that, where they're very hot and with lots of flavor, but everything's made here on the farm. And the good thing about eating hot peppers is it's good for your circulatory system. And also it helps reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. I have diabetes is pretty rampant on both sides of my native and non-native families. So anything we can do to start addressing those issues, reducing it. There's not a lot of sugar in our plant or our food materials. So a lot of it's just main ingredients. Most of the stuff at Sakari Botanicals has like 3 ingredients, like our smoked salts have 3 ingredients, our healing salves. We're not going to throw a bunch of coconut oil and things. We use things that are from here. There's local beeswax, local plant materials, and then like the local oil that we have. So just trying to keep things really simple. I feel like the more you add into food products, the less value there is nutritionally too. If you look at one of our labels for our hot sauce, it's like peppers, garlic that we grow, onions. It's just very simple. And I think it's good to kind of keep it like that. This is smoked Finium pine salt. So we cold oak smoke all of our salts, and they're really good. We have a smoked cedar salt with a little bit of lavender, but we harvest the pine from regionally here from around the area. And then we grow the other flowers and plant materials that go into our smoked salts, but they're really good for brines. We've actually switched out our table salt in the house and just use this now on everything. It's not a super smoky hickory barbecue kind of smell or flavor. So, and it's nice to be able to smell pinyon like every morning when I put on my eggs. So that's another one of our value-added products. I kind of pick like our top 3, the hot sauce, the tea, and the salts. Very well-rounded. They do really well in the communities. And it's just reminding you of those smells. Whenever you open up a package of something, you go, oh yeah, I remember, remembering our ceremonies and when you smell that sweetgrass, those kind of things. This has been something fun. We have tribal food cooking classes out here where I create traditional recipes, keep them really simple for our youth. And this is Get Day Squash that was donated from Rosebud Bear. The year before it was donated from Jessica Greendare from Dreamer Wild Health. So what we try and do here, I don't have a lot of tribal farmers around me, and we're working on finding those and helping those people to grow more food around us. But I work with Jerry and other folks that have maple sugar, other tribal chefs and food creators to help develop recipes. We share different farm foods from around the country. Crystal Wigwapa, I'm sending her squash blossom powder to put on her healthy bars that she makes. So all the tribal members and farmers and chefs are all working together to create these healthy traditional food items. And this is something I created for one of my classes that we're going to be hopefully teaching in the spring pending COVID. It'll go up to Warm Springs, but this is just a Get Day squash where we stripped it out, got all the seed out, and then I rolled it in maple sugar and just threw it in the dehydrator, put it in a Ziploc, label it for food and safety, and then you can store it in a cool, dark place. Lasts for months. I think we rationed the last bag out last year was 6 months. So you can just pull it out. It's really nice candy, full of vitamin C. It's just really good to eat. So these are the kind of sweet treats that we can introduce to our youth that will redirect them from bag of chips, candy, soda. And it's a healthy, fresh, grown that they grew squash. And then it's teaching them about the tradition of the squash, where it came from, how to save the seed, and how they can make it for themselves when they get home too. I can just breeze through this, but this is just, I help other tribal farmers start farms from scratch. We have a tribal seed bank. We offer free seed throughout the country, but mostly in the Northwest, we're trying to get back into local communities. If you ever need help starting a farm from scratch, business plan, marketing, value-added product, just call me. I'm here to help in any way. And this next slide is just kind of what we do. Develop these amazing tribal food recipes. This is working with a girl up in Warm Springs who's an Intertribal Ag Council youth leader. I'm super proud of her. And she'll come down or I'll go up and we deliver each other, or I deliver them free tribal food boxes. This one isn't as traditional because it has eggs in it, but it comes with our value-added products. Some of our healing teas with elderberries, or they're traditional foods that are from that region. And then we distribute it up to them throughout the season when we have good growth and supplement of food. And then the other picture on the right is sweetgrass. That's how I started out, was trying to get people from over harvesting, mostly non-natives, the sweetgrass and some of our medicines like white sage out in the wild. And then I brought it onto the farm and started growing it in organic in rows, just to preserve the culture, preserve the sanctity of kind of why that medicine needs to just stay within tribal hands, I guess. But I brought our sweetgrass. I usually bring it to a lot of the tribal food sovereignty conferences that we have. And this is just a picture of me sharing it with everyone, teaching them how to braid it, sharing it with other people around the community to encourage them to do basket making. And then there is, of course, the normal ceremonial use of burning it. And that's kind of all I have. I want to hand it over to Jerry because I know we're short on time, but if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm here to help in any way I can. I want to see our youth, move forward and be healthy and successful and eat well and take care of themselves and others. And that's what Sakari Farms is all about, is traditional foods and helping in any way we can. So thank you so much, you guys. I know that was quick. Let us know if you have any questions. I think that we've got our virtual booth today if anyone wants to do some Christmas shopping. So.
Yeah, make sure you state your contact information.
Yeah, I think it was up on my last slide, but maybe Lottie can put that up at the end.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Spring. We'll go ahead and pass it on to Jerry with Dynamite Hills Farms.
Okay, we're gonna go over time, just so you know. Fair warning. So Buju Ninda Way Magani Duk Gidaga Biju Ninda Genikaz Aji Jacques and Dudam we Quedonk and Dojabano Jibwe Anishinabe and Ini and Dao. It's really a pleasure to be a part of this panel. I've heard of Melinda's work in the past, but it's really good to hear from you directly and to hear about your thought processes and how you came to do what you do now. I think that's very inspirational, and just to let you know, I appreciate what you're doing. So miigwech. And man, the stuff going on over at Sakari is just awesome, and you're such a powerhouse too, Spring. So I appreciate all the energy and knowledge and energy that you bring to these spaces. So miigwech to you too, and also miigwech to Lottie and Mike as well. And I know some of those words are pretty tough, Mike. That's okay. I forgive you. It's Mike Shrimpberg, right? That's how you pronounce the last name. So here's one of those beautiful Wingashk, the sweetgrass braids from Sakari Farms. So just wanted to give that, a little shout out there. We have a lot of ability to lift each other up, I think, as Indigenous people across this country, and I don't think we talk about that enough. And since everyone's doing this like selfless plug thing on their business stuff, I'm gonna do that too. You know what I mean? I don't want to break with tradition. So real quick, I don't have a pretty PowerPoint, but I have some of the products here. So this is an example of the Jiwabu. This is Anishinabe maple vinegar. So we're actually fermenting we're producing the maple syrup on our farm here. I'm the owner operator with my family here at Dynamite Hills Farms. We actually own 30 acres of land on our reservation. We're on the Keweenaw Bay Indian Community Reservation, right on the shores of Lake Superior. So we make jiwagamezigan, or maple syrup. So we produce all this stuff in the backyard. It's all handmade. We're making maple vinegar, which is something, Melinda, you may be interested in. So I don't know anyone else is actually doing like legitimate maple vinegar, but we have to ferment it. You know, there's a two-step process. I'm sure you know about that to get to the acetic acid for vinegar. And we're doing all that here too. Another vinegar that we're making as well is the Mishimen Jiwabu. This is a apple cider vinegar. So I don't know if you can see, we're working on packaging too. So I got a little stamp up there. We're trying to figure stuff out. We don't know what we're doing either. But so we have apple trees and apple orchard in the backyard as well too. So we're just trying to figure out how to best produce these foods in a good way that are also shelf stable. So, you know, let's say we do have a bad year, you know, at least we have some stuff to fall back on that'll stay good in the cupboard. One of the big things so the maple is probably one of the big aspects to what we're doing here. And actually it's primarily, as Spring had mentioned there, the maple vinegar, the Zinzi buckwood, that's more of our traditional maple. This is a granulated maple sugar. Another version that we made too was like a really hard candy, and we would put those in wigwas, like cones, birch bark cones that we would, no, not seeing any questions right now. Okay. So, okay, another thing, right? This is the manomen. This is the wild rice. This is like the real deal wild rice. It's not the jet black patty wild rice. My family actually goes to Minnesota to harvest wild rice because all the beds that were around here were all destroyed from the mining era. This is where we live right now, is called the Copper Country. And just to give you a quick, I guess, background, like the copper rush here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan actually generated more wealth than the gold rush out in California. So if you can kind of wrap your head around the destruction that took place during that time too. Our rice is no longer here, but we're trying to restore that every single year. We're working on those. I work with my natural resources department too. Another cool thing that we're doing is we're trying to get the trade networks going too. So this is a dehydrated Oneida white corn, and we trade our wild rice for some of that dehydrated white corn. We get a bunch of snow up here where we are, and our growing season is really short. So like row agriculture is not as much of a viable option as places further south or west or even east from where we are. So even kicking up those old trade networks and those trade routes that were established pre-colonization is and lifting up those communities too, because they don't have access to wild rice either. So being able to put in the work and share. I know that this corn society down in Oneida, they take care of that food and they produce it in a really good way as well. And that's kind of part of this whole theme of health and well-being, right, around foods. And I think while it's important, and I think it's becoming more commonplace that you are what you eat, right? And the things that we put into our body, they have effects on us, whether it's our microbiome in our bellies or the allergies and inflammation and stuff that these other foods trigger within our bodies. I think that's becoming more and more well known, which I think is really good. But I would like to, kind of take a step back, maybe a couple steps back from that perspective and not just look at the human perspective necessarily, and fall back more on some really old stories. And, as an Ojibwe person, I don't speak for all Ojibwe people. I'm just going to share some of the stories and stuff that I know that have guided me on my path that I'm walking now, and things that I tend to fall back on quite a bit. And one of those stories that always seems to resurface in my thought processes is the fact that we as human beings, or as Anishinabe people, we're very pitiful. We're very pitiful. We don't have the ability to photosynthesize like our plant relatives. We're not very fast. We can't fly. Our eyesight sucks. Hearing is, pretty poor. We're not that strong, even though some people think they are. In the grand scheme of things, we're not very well equipped to exist in this place. And so our survival is predicated on the gifts and the generosity of everything else that's around us. And that goes back to an old story that was referred to me as the original treaty. And essentially everything else here in creation had recognized our shortcomings as a being here, as Anishinaabe, as human beings here. And they took pity on us, and they all agreed to help us and to share their gifts with us. And our responsibility in that treaty was that we needed to do our best to take care of everything else around us so that it can continue to take care of us. And so it's really finding our place again. And the reason I bring that up when we're talking about health and well-being and stuff like that is because we're just a proxy. Like, our being is just, we're the embodiment of the health of the environment around us. And so if we really want to start talking about health and well-being, we really need to take a step away from just us as individuals and start looking a little bit more broadly in the landscape and the environment that we're in. If we protect those things that are around us, if we protect that water, if we protect those forests, if we protect those prairies and those plants and the animals too, I guarantee you that our people will be healthier. I can guarantee you that. And not just Native people, not just Indigenous people, but everybody will be healthier. That's a fact. And that goes back to some old teachings. And that's still in play today. So that's sort of translated into, what we're doing here at this farm right now. We've really only been like officially in operation for a year. And I kind of resonated with you again, Melinda, about the whole educational and like academic sort of fields. I was working up at the university here, and I kind of felt like I was actually working on like a natural resources program up there. And I felt like I was a hypocrite because I was talking about why all these things are important and to consider the inherent sovereignty of everything else around us, right? When they're talking about natural resource management or agriculture or whatever, it's always just like from a human-centric perspective. And that's just, you're starting off on the wrong foot right from the beginning. And so I sort of felt like I was, being a hypocrite by talking about these things, but not having enough time to do them, because to sugar, to tap those trees, to knock that rice, to make these products, it takes a long time. It really, really does. And I think that is part of the health and well-being of food as well. Like the physical act and the physical labor that goes into these things, you can't discount that. That's very healthy for us. We're mobile people, right? We have to move and keep our bodies moving too, to try to stay healthy. And then it's the intention, and it's the ceremony and everything else that goes in to those foods that are being produced. We're also very small. We're a small family operation and small batch production. And when we're doing these things, it's a lot of work. But oftentimes you'll hear laughing, you'll hear singing going on, you'll hear like these good vibes that are being put out while we're working with these foods. And I don't want to discount that either. I think that's also really important. I think that's the reason why Mama's food tasted so good, right? It's when you put that love and that intention into those things, it translates as well into the people that receive them. And so when we're not about mass production, we're not trying to be millionaires. I'm pretty sure I'm going to work until I die. But my retirement plan is basically, training these kiddos up that we have here to just continue this. But that, I think, is also really important to the health and well-being of these foods that we're creating. Even the medicines. I mean, there's old stories about the medicines that we use and how to handle those, and there's certain like taboos when women shouldn't be working with some of these things because they're so powerful at certain points. And also like with the men, they have to be of the right mind if they're going to be working with these foods, because if you have that bad and negative stuff inside of you while you're working with these medicines, you put that on there too. And it's the same thing with the foods as well. So, if you're upset, you don't like what you're doing, you're mad, you're working for someone that you despise, and all that negative stuff kind of goes into the food. And then when I think about that as well, I think about our current food system in the United States. You think about these large commercial agriculture farms or the KFUs or whatever they're called, and those emotions and those feelings that the animals have there, that stuff will translate into your food too. And so we wonder why so many people are getting sick. It's because everything that we're doing to those animals, we're doing to ourselves. And we got to stop that. And I'm really happy that there's other people that are out there doing these things, you know, such as you two on this panel as well, because that's where it starts. It starts small. Because you get too big, you don't have time to understand all those trees that are in your backyard. You don't. And another example too, when you stop centering human beings and the understanding of everything around us, we had a really bad berry season, and we pick a lot of berries around here too. We're kind of like the land of the dark berries here, and they're everywhere, and it's amazing. But we had a bad berry season this year, and we get choke cherries as well, and we didn't have a very good choke cherry year. And as we're walking by, you know, in our backyard there, or our farm, we made the conscious decision not to pick any of those choke cherries this year, because we saw our relatives, the winged ones, right? The birds that are out there that need that stuff to survive. And so we said, we're going to be okay. You know, we've got enough food. You know, I've got enough fat on me for probably a couple years to survive without food. But our birds don't, right? So it was a conscious decision to say, well, we're not going to pick any of these choke cherries this year because those birds need it more than we do. And that goes into a healthy system. Those birds will eat those berries, and they'll fly around and they'll take a poop somewhere, right? And then they'll plant some more of those berries too. So it's a very complex way of thinking about food and wellness and well-being, but it shouldn't be anything that is simple, I guess, except for your ingredients, right? Everything that's going into what we're doing is very simple. Organic sustainability, man, we've been doing that shit for thousands of years before those terms were even like spoken. So I really do encourage both of you to continue doing what you're doing, and I really appreciate what you're doing, and to teach me if you have the time to. I'd really love to learn more about what you guys are doing. So I'll stop there, and it's before 2 o'clock, so you guys should be thankful because I can yap when I get going. So miigwech for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Jerry. It's always just a great time to meet with a lot of our, just producers who are so passionate about their product. They're so true to sticking with that whole, like, food is medicine. That's their thinking, their mindset. And so I really appreciate always learning new things from producers or agriculturalists, because again, you're not super conscious, at least from my perspective. I'm not super conscious, at least prior to COVID. I wasn't really thinking about what's on my labels, where is this food coming from? And as we started moving into kind of protecting our family, making sure we have good nutrients and that keeps us healthy. And, I started looking at packaging a little bit differently, and wanting to make sure my kids have a well-rounded, nutritious diet where they're not just stuffing their face with these high preservative type of products. And so I guess that's my privilege of being able to work with everyone within IAC or with producers that are part of the American Indian Foods program is that seems to be their mission, is to continue to stick with traditional knowledge or traditional farming methods. But, just in that thought of food is medicine, and taking care of our food in that way. So I really appreciate you guys taking time to join us today. I don't see any questions on the live Q&A stream. However, if anyone is tuning in and would like to have a one-on-one conversation with our panelists, I believe all of our panelists have a virtual booth, our exhibitors booth. So totally go run on over and visit with all of our producers. But before we leave, I'll have each one of you guys just share, if you want to share, like, how people can get in touch with you, or your website, just leaving that contact information.
Okay, I'll start, I guess. So if you want to contact me directly, my email is morninglightkombucha@gmail.com, and our website's morninglightkombucha.com. We're also on Facebook and on Instagram, and if you message on any of those platforms, I'll definitely get back to you too. And so just feel free to reach out if you need to.
Hey, I'll go next. Sakari Farms on Instagram. SakariBotanicals.com is where you can buy our food products at. And SakariFarms@gmail.com to ask for help for receiving seed and starting your farm. Thank you guys. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, so like I said, we've only been doing this like legitimately for a year. And so we're not cool enough to have a website yet. Because pretty much everything that we're producing, is gone. So I don't want to put a website up there that's just constantly sold out. So because everything's so, small batch stuff. But connect with us on Facebook if you can. Just find us at Dynamite Hill Farms. Or you can send us an email at dynamitehillfarms@gmail.com. Yeah, I'm all about the relationship building, even with our customers too. So yeah, hit us up. Miigwech. Oh, and don't forget to take care of your environment, because it'll take